Hola, buenas noches. Vamos a empezar con la actividad de hoy. Gracias por la paciencia, perdón por la pequeña demora. Hoy en el SEAC recibimos a la oficina italiana Baukuh y puntualmente a dos de sus socios, Pier Paolo Tamburelli y a Giacomo Summa, que visitan la escuela probablemente la semana. Como siempre, antes de seguir con la actividad de hoy, me gustaría compartirles el calendario y compartirles un poco el resto de las actividades. Por un lado, venimos con un ritmo bastante intenso en agosto, con más de 5 conferencias. La semana que viene ya van a estar todas disponibles en el canal de YouTube de la escuela, por si todavía no las vieron o alguna no pudieron venir. Y las próximas semanas nos vamos a tomar un receso para volver con actividades en octubre. Este calendario está disponible en la web o acá en el hotel para respirar. Las actividades de octubre serán, por un lado, la presentación del nuevo libro de Vittorio Pizzigoni, el decano fundador de esta escuela. Esa presentación será una mesa redonda con Ignacio de Rocha, Contemporánea y Claudia Schmidt. El tema del libro de Pancho, Otredad y Canon, tiene bastante que ver con la conferencia que dio el año pasado aquí en el SEAC, el ciclo de trabajo de los demás. Es un poco una continuación que los invitamos. Y después en octubre también realizaremos el lanzamiento del número 2 de la revista de Arquitectura, de la DTA, que estará dedicado a la arquitectura argentina de 1970. El lanzamiento de esta publicación irá de la mano de una exhibición titulada Memorias del Futuro. Este es un proyecto que están llevando adelante, además de la editorial y el archivo de la arquitectura, los profesores de la escuela Gonzalo Yerba y Sabine Kastner. Bueno, y después en noviembre vamos a tener otras conferencias magistrales más. En ese sentido, switché al inglés para la charla de hoy. Thank you so much, Pier Paolo and Giacomo, for coming and for being with us here, presenting your work. This year, in the public program at the school, we decided to not organize the lectures according to prevalent themes, but we selected a various array of practices that were interesting for us. To showcase a little bit the state of the art of different offices that we were interested in. And the underlying topic in the semester is the relationship between practice and history, because all the different guest lecturers and practitioners we're having have a very straightforward and very clear relationship with history in different ways. This is something that perhaps nowadays is more established or something more common to speak so clearly, but 20 years ago when we started, I think it was radical or refreshing or at least it stand out. And we are eager, to hear you, to map a little bit these different relationships of other practices. So thank you. And now I'd like to invite Sabine Kastner, teacher of thesis in the school, to introduce a little bit your work.
Hola, buenas noches. Hello everyone, good evening. If I remember correctly, Pier Paolo, in representation of Baukuh, already gave a lecture for Itala a few years ago during the pandemic, so unfortunately, due to the circumstances back then, it was an online lecture held from your kitchen, if I remember. So now we're all the more pleased to welcome you in person, and so far away from it. So now I have the honor to introduce you to Pier Paolo and to Giacomo in their office Baukuh. Pier Paolo Tamburelli studied architecture at the University of Genoa and the Bienal Institute in Rotterdam. He has taught at numerous prestigious institutions, including the Bienal Institute Rotterdam, the Technical University of Munich, the VU Porto, the Harvard University Graduate School of Design, the Technical University of Munich, the University of Illinois Chicago, and the Polytechnic University of Milan. Since 2021, he has held the chair of design theory at the Vienna University of Technology. His pedagogical approach in his Grundkurs, or basic course, at TU Vienna formed the basis of his book Grundkurs, What is Architecture About?, published by MAC in 2023. In 2022, he published on Bramante with MIT Press a comprehensive study of the Italian Renaissance architect and painter Donato Bramante. He was also co-founder and editor of the architectural magazine Centro. Giacomo Summa graduated at the University of Genoa and worked for Stefano Borelli Architects, focusing on project coordination from the preliminary to the executive phase. At Baukuh, he coordinates projects and supervises the execution phase of the main projects. Summa has been a member of juries of international competitions and has held lessons in many European universities. Summa was one of the founders and editors, such as Tamburelli, of the architectural magazine Centro. Together with Paolo Carpi, Silvia Lupi, Vittorio Pizzigoni, and Andrea Zanderigo, Giacomo Summa and Pier Paolo Tamburelli founded their office Baukuh in Milan and Genoa in 2004, which makes this year their 20-year anniversary. So at this point, congratulations and happy birthday. And now based exclusively in Milan, the office works on projects both nationally and internationally beyond Italy's borders. In 2005, Baukuh realized the Cerveceria residential building in Tirana, Albania, and the House of Memory in Milan in 2015, for both of which they received an EU Mies Award nomination. They are currently developing a series of large-scale projects, such as the restoration of the former seminary school in Hoogstraat in Belgium, or the strategic development plan for the student city of Tirana. They've also contributed to biennials and triennials in cities such as Rotterdam, Istanbul, Venice, Lisbon, and Chicago. Baukuh published the books Casa e la Memoria, a comprehensive documentation of their project, The House of Memory in Milan, and 2 essays on architecture, a theoretical analysis of the writings of Italian architects Giorgio Grassi and Aldo Rossi. Like Javi introduced earlier, the lecture series of this year's SEAC presents outstanding contemporary architects who, through their work in their specific context, show us the cultural, social, and creative richness of architecture around the world. The lecturers invited and continue to invite us to get to know the architectural reality of Brazilian, Spanish, Belgian, or Swiss practices. With Baukuh, we now have the honor to not only discover their work as architects in the contemporary Italian context, but also gaining insights into their critical engagement with the Italian past. In both their theoretical and practical work, Baukuh recognizes that current architectural action is always based on historical foundation, and that we can and should draw on the knowledge gained. And where better to find these foundations than in the cities, streets, buildings, and squares of Italy, more precisely, Renaissance Italy, with his commitment to architecture as public art. However, through Baukuh's work, we do not simply look back passively at the past. Through their interpretive and projective approach to writing and design, Baukuh charges historical elements and theories with a new significance, connecting architectural practice with a wider range of social, political, and ideological ideas. I'm now pleased to hand over the word to Pier Paolo and Giacomo from Baukuh, and I wish you all a very great day.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for inviting us here. It's much better to be here than being in my kitchen. You will get today a bit of a strange version of our normal presentation, because normally Giacomo hates to do this thing. So he just came because it was in Buenos Aires. So if it would have been in Frankfurt, it would not come. But given that, so you will have a bit of a glimpse into the everyday working of the office, where people have rather different personalities and rather different approach and also skills, I think. So I normally do these things. So I'm kind of the bullshitting department. And Giacomo does more construction side, so it's more kind of serious.
Yeah, I'm more comfortable in a construction site than in a classroom, no? But I want to share with you. Okay. I want to share with you my experience in construction of 3 buildings, and we talk about this. And Pierre talk about all the opera of Baukuh.
Yeah. So it's a very long lecture, which I believe at a certain moment, if you're fed up with it, most cut and shorten. But we happen to, the office happened to reach 20 years of activity this year. So we had a lecture at the Trienale in Milan in the summer, which concentrated a little bit more on the evolution of what we did, where we go, and not so much on the project. This is a version of that lecture in which we kept a little bit of this kind of personal history, which is not really interested into sort of autobiographical approach, also because we are many. We started with 8 partners, we're now 5. We're anyhow a plural subject. So there's no, let's say, autobiographical motive into this. But we thought it was interesting to map the place we went, the problem we were confronted with. And so we had this presentation. This is to shut down everything. So we had a presentation full of these sort of things, like the beginnings of Baukuh, winning a competition, European competition in Amsterdam. Starting from that lecture, I thought that anyhow here you don't know the project, so I reintroduced one project per year. So it's a bit of a history with one project per year. I think it's also not really rigorous, so maybe sometimes there's even 2. So this is really the beginning. So we were students operating in this sort of condition. And we did a competition. In Europe, you have a format that's called European. I don't even know if it still exists. Probably yes, but yes, I'm not sure. And that's for so-called young architects, which at the time we were. And in that year, that I think was 2003, we did 2 competitions, because I think with the inscription you could do 2 projects. So we did 2 and we won 2, which forced us to start an office. Because the one in Budapest that I'm not showing was never done, but this one in Amsterdam
is called Brutus. Yeah. Brutus and Cassius.
This is called Cassius.
This Cassius.
Okay. And this was sort of hardcore transformation of a neighborhood designed by Jaap Bakema in the 50s in the west of Amsterdam. And the proposition was to demolish quite a lot, like the yellow one, the buildings, and to build, basically to privatize everything. Actually, in retrospect, it's unbelievably neoliberal. And I think in a strange way, I think we were at the time much more mature in architectural terms. So I think the architecture we're doing now is more or less the same. The political awareness of the transformation maybe got a little bit better. But at least we took that honestly and say, you want to privatize everything, you are not able to maintain all these green space in between. So you demolish everything and you fill it with a carpet of one level house, pretty much similar to the Buenos Aires standard dimension of 8.
No, it's less. It's 5 meters.
No, it was more. It was
5 meters.
5 meters? That's crazy. And then it was like a radical project of transformation and, in a way, restoration, very neoclassical restoration, which you even, in a way, pretend to teach to the past how it should have been. And this, we worked a lot onto this. We worked for more than 5 years. We got a master plan approved and started designing the first. These are images of things we did after. And then there was the crisis of 2007, 2008, and the project collapsed. But in the process, we started to have an office. So we rented the space, quit our previous jobs, and started doing other things. This, for instance, is a crazy project in this garden of this gigantic villa in Genoa for a billionaire that we happen to know. Of course, it was not built. This is a project slightly later for an administrative building in Arezzo, which is probably one of the most direct declaration of love for the work of Giorgio Grassi, in which you see this very naked type of architecture with these flying walls, this strange entrance. But together with that, there's a bit of a strange twist. So there was this very big courtyard that was paved with I think it's called astroturf, like this stuff you use for American football fields that is kind of synthetic grass with a gigantic map of the moon for whatever reason. This is something we probably did the same year. This is a collaboration with Office Castenguer's David Van Severen. So it's housing in Milan that you see here. So this incredibly long slab of apartments, completely uncompromising, a bit silly maybe even, but and this you see in our version, and this is in the version of Carsten and David. And you can judge which one is the most impressive.
And municipality
didn't like. We didn't with the competition.
Didn't like, no.
At all. This is something we did at that time, a completely different scale. This is Palazzo della Ragione in Padua, and in Palazzo della Ragione there's a couple of objects inside, and among them there's this thing here, which is called Foucault's pendulum, which is this thing. The Foucault pendulum is a machine that demonstrates something about the orbit of the planet. I don't know, but the important thing for us is that if a kid touches this oscillating ball, whatever the pendulum demonstrates is not demonstrated anymore. So you have to protect the pendulum from kids. And so we did this gigantic pan that is like that. And that I think is working at the scale of object design, which is something that maybe is not really a thing we love to do so much, but we sometimes do, and to which we, in the end, apply a very similar attitude to other things. So the sort of very composed classicism of this thing is repeated through, you will see it repeated through very different scales. This is a competition of that time for the expansion of Asplund Library in Stockholm. So this is Asplund Library, and this is one of the many, because there were many. One of the many proposals by Asplund himself to expand the library. And this is a very, in a way, a very polemic and very kind of, I don't know, theoretical project to a certain extent. Although it was meant absolutely seriously and so forth. But the argument here is that actually there's already a solution by Asplund, so you can just do that. And this is our proposal. Of course, we thought that there was no reason to have this one longer than the other, so it's also a correction of Asplund. And this is the proposal for the expansion of the library that you see in also this, at the time, rather uncommon drawing, just black and white. And this is how the library was supposed to work. So the collection is on the top, and underground there's this step, the connecting room with these sort of Italian gardens at these different terraces containing the books that are more, I would say, commonly used, frequently used. This is a bit of a perspective of this space, kind of indoor Belvedere courtyard. And this is a bit the plan, which I think is one of the first projects, maybe a little bit also the villa we showed before, in which you have this combination, very regular, very simple and pragmatic architecture with something that is much more, in a way, rhetorical and a bit baroque. So this is a view of the thing. In 2007, myself and Andrea went to teach in Syria, in Aleppo, in what I think was at the time the worst university in the world, a private university where students would not really speak English. So given that we also didn't speak Arabic, there was basically no real teaching. And I think it was quite a failure for the students, but for us it was extremely teaching. And by going there, so we saw things like this. This is a festival, the biker festival inside the ruins of the Roman city of Apamea. And this is the interior of the Assad Dam, which is a dam on the Assad Lake, which is an artificial lake on the Euphrates River. And there we were contacted by some potential clients there who wanted to do a sort of thematized ancient sort of hotel that they wanted in what they called, I don't know, the Tuscan style or something like that, just because we were Italian. And we came up with this rather bizarre proposal, which of course was also not built, but which was based on the idea of, let's say, there was the beginning of CNC technology to cut stone, so you can actually manufacture relatively easy these sort of capitals. So we thought we could do these proto-Ionic capitals and glue them to the facade of this hotel, but given that they are ionic, so they are bidimensional, they would generate all sort of wrong situation in the corner. So you see the bit here. So there's a kind of deliberate mistake in all this thing. And there's all sort of maybe too many. Whatever. This was very beautiful backside with completely nonsense. You see the difference between these that is oriented this way and these that is oriented that way.
We call this project proto-ionic.
The proto-ionic whatever. Of course, it wasn't built. This is a bit how it would have looked. At the same time, we did this work for the Rotterdam Biennale, these gigantic axonometrics of the fora, and with a proposal for the imperial fora, which basically was to dig everything, regain the Roman level, and define the borders of the fora, which were actually courtyards, by means of hedges. So turning it into a park, bringing people down into. This I'm showing also because we came back over and over to these imperial fora problems. In order to do that, in order to do this axonometry, which I think nowadays is pretty common, but at that time was not. And it was also much more work because there was much less stuff already available online, already designed. And so it took months to do this drawing. And in the meantime, we used it for, I don't know, the Christmas wishes of 2000 and I don't remember, 8. This is I think, the craziest part of our career, where we had a lot of energy. We could do this sort of bit nonsensical things. So this is a competition for
the Italian pavilion in Shanghai Expo.
At Shanghai Expo of 2015 or something, even before. So this project, which was then presented with this gigantic model, for which we did, all of this was done to produce a video. So the pavilion is fundamentally a gigantic ceiling that is floating on top of a completely open plan. So the plan is actually this, super simple, and you can put whatever we wanted to sell: Chinese, Ferraris, helicopters, weapons, what Italy produces. And the system of space corresponding to a classic and Renaissance and Roman classic and Renaissance tradition was simply dug into the roof. So it's kind of a strange ruin, because normally the ruin, well, actually, always in the ruins you have the foundation and the vaults are missing because they're collapsing. But in this case, this weird ruin in which you have the vaults, but you don't have the foundation. This thing, which, if I remember correctly, was done in sort of sound insulating material. So it would also
Feltro, no?
Yeah, I think Feltro would have costed so much, but maybe something cheaper doing the same thing. So it would also create an absurd silence in this expo crazy, noisy place. And this resulted in this model, which is a little bit like these models that Moretti did of the spaces of Baroque and Renaissance churches, in which Moretti basically casted the negative, like so the space becomes a solid thing, and so then we shoot a video at Palazzo Rosso, one of the museums by Franco Albini in Genoa. So you see, this is the collection. Actually, in retrospect, I cannot understand why they allowed us to do this. And we hang this 2.5 by 2.5 model from a hook that like Baroque hook supposed to hang a lamp, with the risk of collapsing the fresco in the walls, but thank God it didn't happen. And these are stills from these video that we made together with a friend. We did a lot of videos in that moment. And it's something that we still do, like big models with, like this was sort of film, but another thing we do sometimes is kind of stop motion, which you take photos of something and then you move it. And so at that time we published the very first book that is collection of plans, 100 plans we designed at the time. With an essay by Kastner, I think.
Our plan, It's all our plan.
And then after we won this competition for a library, a Chamber of Commerce in Genoa, the Chamber of Commerce, like Genoa basically is guilty of having invented capitalism or heavily contributed to this thing. And the Chamber of Commerce has an amazing library in the sense that it's a collection of economic and fiscal documents that were very experimental at the time. Like it's one of the centers in which modern economical and financial theory was developed. So this thing is very precious. And this is one of the palazzi in Strada. This is Strada Nuova, so the one of the Rubens engraving. So the palazzi drafted by Galeazzo Alessi. And this is Palazzo Bianco.
Is the first.
This one?
No.
No, questo. Yeah, this Palazzo Bianco, this Palazzo Rosso, so the two museums by LB. And this is the city hall. And the proposal was just to make this very simple thing by removing this ceiling and so connecting the lower entrance to the upper entrance, because the basically the slope of the city goes like that. So here is much higher than here. So we won this thing, and it was also a very reasonable and cheap project. But unfortunately, they just didn't want to do it, and they couldn't care less. So this is one of the reasons why we, in the end, left Genoa, because there was literally no.
And the document things about this project that I remember, that the document about 14th and 13th century, so very, very old documents, are in the box on the backside of the building. And now I think they are there.
So they're rotting, basically. Yeah. Okay, so forget Genoa. At the same time, we built this thing in Tirana, direct commission. At a certain moment, while studying at Berlage Institute, I worked with Elia Zengelis to study of Tirana, and And after that, the mayor at the time, mayor of Tirana, Edi Rama, who's now the prime minister of Albania, simply told me, if you want to build, do you want to build in Tirana? And okay, yes, why not? And after a while, we received emails from Albania, and were actually real estate developers who wanted projects. In this case, we designed something. The project was approved, and then we didn't know anything about the building until a friend of mine went to Tirana and called me and said, you know, I saw your building. It's nice. They're building, and we did not know. The owner sold the project to another owner to simply build the thing. And at that moment, we went once or twice to try to say, you know, do this way, do that way. But fundamentally, this is the building.
We talk about with the client on the roof, if you remember, and then they add a store. If you see
one level.
One level, see.
Yeah, well.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
This is a building we sort of designed, in the sense that we just designed an image. We actually made two buildings. There's another one that was realized before, in which we tried to be minimal, simple, and it was a complete failure because that building needed precision in execution. And starting from that failure, we thought, okay, we know we cannot control it, so it should be much more aggressive, should be a building that is able to build itself on its own without the architect, a kind of adult building who doesn't need the architect. And this is the result. I mean, there are limits to this operation, but I think it was interesting.
Pierre, we can say now that think about Tirana, that the rules in Tirana are the setback. So the first building we did with the setback produce a bad building because they change a little bit the terrace, no? So we decide to do things that is interpreted the setback as that. And they have no choice to do that.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, after this, a lot of building in Tirana born like this.
Yeah. Okay. This is a project for a church in Norway that we did. This is the first collaboration with Yellow Office, who's a landscape designer company who often works with us. And this church is simply the combination of these three apparently completely unrelated things. So you attach the sort of portico, like the stairs of Casa Malaparte onto this OMA thing, and then you glue this shingle portico, and you get your beautiful church that looks like this, a sort of egg or a sort of UFO in this Norwegian landscape that, by the way, we also never saw, so we never went there. And the church has this rather enigmatic appearance, but at the same time with elements that are very reassuring, very known, like this neoclassical portico. And this is also the first time we collaborated with Stefano Graziani, who is an Italian photographer we often work with. And we did this model, and at the time it was snowing a lot. Like these are the mountains just behind Genoa, so they're very low mountains. So normally there's no snow there. And so it was snowing. I thought, okay, let's put it there. And so we produced this pictures. If you want to check on our website, there's also a very stupid video of myself and Paolo carrying this model in order to
brushes the snow. I remember.
Yeah, and cleaning the snow just not to leave our footprint in front in this sort of picture. These are some stills from this operation, but the video is better. In 2010, I taught a studio together with Oliver Till about the Nile Valley in Egypt, and that was the beginning of a series of research work about the Nile Valley. This would be very complicated to explain, so I skipped, but I'm mentioning because it comes back in House of Memory in a completely different context. At that time, we also started doing this magazine called San Rocco. This is issue number 0, and you see Paolo Carpi, one of my partners, Andrea Zanderigo is another partner. She's Milica Topalovic, and she's Francesca Pellicciari, who was the graphic designer of San Rocco. So San Rocco looked like this. And in 2011, last thing we did in Genoa before moving to Milan was actually winning a competition for building in Milan that's called House of Memory, which is this. So this is again a very big model of which Stefano took picture very early in the morning in front of the cathedral in Milan. And the idea for the building is the building is called House of Memory. It's the headquarters of a series of different associations. The main one is the Association of Former Partisan Fighters in the civil war that took place in Italy in the second half of World War II, kind of insurgency against the Nazi occupation of the northern part of Italy. So it's a very important collection, but it's a very unspectacular collection because it's just letters, documents, pieces of paper. So we studied a bit these kind of monuments like the Scuole in Venice or San Michele in Florence, which are not really city halls, they are not really churches, they are kind of in between, kind of second range sort of public spaces. And of course we looked at some things in Egypt that we saw just before. And so we designed this building that is very simple. It's a box in brick and has all these images of scenes from the history of post-war Milan on the facade. So we tried really to do a public building that tries to, define collective memory. So something that I think in contemporary society is very difficult to do, to say, the collective memory of this city amounts to these. And of course, they are images, so they're ambiguous, but nevertheless, it's quite complicated and in a way against the grain of our culture. But we thought that in this case, it was necessary to do it. And of course, we could not do it in this medieval or Renaissance way, in which basically the bishop comes and say, I want Saint Sebastian, Saint John the Evangelist, blah, 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 and this is what you pay. So we looked a lot at this example of Gerhard Richter, the paintings for the cycle of the Rote Armee Fraktion, the group of leftist terrorists that were killed on 17 October 1977, if I'm not wrong. So the entire cycle is the start of 17 October 19. And Richter painted two type of things, these very large collective scenes, like this is a funeral of some of these terrorists, and very small, kind of more intimate type of portrait of this figure. So that's a portrait of Ulrich Meinhof. And we thought we could do something similar, because if you do these pictures in bricks, somehow they are realized in 6 different tones, and when you're very far, the image goes together, so it's relatively precise. When you come closer, it somehow disappears. And so this operation of putting together, of fixing a memory for a collective entity like city is at the same time done, but it's also not entirely done because it's so difficult to do it. And of course, these was organized through a scientific committee and a participation process, which was a nightmare, one of the longest thing we could do, because these different associations were all related to horrible events, and the representatives were all old people. So then they started to fight among each other for very banal things. They also had plenty of time because they were all retired people. But retired people were, I don't know, president of the Constitutional Court, so very, very educated, unfortunately with a lot of time, and ready to fight for a chair, the most important thing in life. So they would start discussing, no, but we need to have 1 chair more. No, you cannot take this chair. And then they would start to say, yes, but my brother was killed by the Red Brigades. And the other would say, yeah, but my father was in concentration camp. And immediately it became like a knife. So this is a bit more, maybe you want to talk about this?
Oh, okay. Go on. See, this is our first public building. And when we start, as Pierre said, we use model. In this case, the model was very, very important because we understand that the techniques of the bricks can be done. And we start with the portrait of Callas. This is another, but this is Callas. And the process to arrive from the images to arrive to the building, to the facade, was very long because, sorry, go back. This is the photo of Maria Callas, the singer.
Which, by the way, is not like
no.
We started with some relatively known people, but of course, for political reasons, was not possible. So all of the people now are sort of anonymous, taken from certain photos in a specific archive. But method is the same.
The method is to do in the black and white, and then in the six color of gray. This is 6 color of gray, and then the problem was we need 6 color of bricks. So the factory San Marco, the factory of San Marco, Latericio, help us a lot, and we work together for a long time to find also the technology to do this, because we are nobody did these things before. And okay, we arrived to this one, and a programmer changed the color in number. This change was very, very, very important to arrive to the facade, because it's impossible to 2 colors are very near, and it's impossible to decide which is. So we arrived to here, and go on. This is the first. This is the mock-up, the first mock-up to arrive. Okay, maybe, and this is the second. And then we arrived when the building is finished for the structure. This is a ventilated facade. So we have the structure in concrete and then insulation. And then the problem was how to do the images. So they print this paper, lots of paper, and a lot of men works on this project.
Yeah.
But all the men that works on this project are proud of that because it's a memory of the city. People decide the images on the facade, and everybody was involved in this process. So everybody, and this happened when you go on after the project and you start the construction site. People, we said, want the same direction. This is very important because this is crucial to arrive to the solution. And another thing was the dimension of the building, because the executive design, we restart because the images change. No, the process to decide which images and go on, blah, blah. So we sized the building on bricks, and the things that allow to do that, and it's strange to say that, is the spacing between the bricks, because this can change on 1-2 millimeters. Okay, but this allows us to have the space to do the window, the doors, and everything. So we arrived.
Yeah. Actually, when we did these, at the beginning, we thought we should prefabricate it, so have much more files, also technology, like something much more advanced. And in the end, this thing was literally put in place brick by brick by bricklayers on the construction site. And this is also an incredibly inexpensive building. This building has been built for a little bit more than 1,500 per square meter. So this building cost 3.6 million euros of the time, which maybe for Argentina seems even generous, but in Milan it's very, very cheap. And you see also inside it's basically a garage with this stair that has been incredibly well executed and it's painted and so forth. But then there's nothing else. Like the building is incredibly simple. The association we even told them, bring your old furniture. It's fine, no problem. So this is super simple. So we moved.
Aspetta, sorry, Pier. I want only to funny things that before the opening of the building we have fences, no? The last fences, the green fences around, because municipality was obsessed that writers did something on the facade. No, because you see, it's free all around. And on the fences, 2 days before the inauguration, yes, there appears a writes on the fences and Viva la street art with an arrow. And then nobody touched. Yeah. After 10 years is perfect. So this is incredible, I think.
We moved to Milan. So this is the first office we had in Milan. We published this text about well, it's two texts, and one is about the theoretical production of Giorgio Grassi, and the second text, there are two long texts, like, I don't know, 80,000 digits or something like that, and the second one is about the architecture of the city, only the architecture of the city by Aldo Rossi. And And this is the only time we wrote something together, something that we happily decided not to do anymore. Because I think one thing is to do architecture together, in which you can have very different contribution, and an architecture anyhow will be built by others, will be used by others, so it's plural by definition. And I think we have no problems in doing that. Writing, I think, is a completely different thing, and it's much more painful to do together, because then it's very extremely personal. Someone wants to, I don't know, change one adjective or add one comma, and for strange reason, it's annoying for someone else. And
you annoying a lot.
I'm very annoying. I'm very annoying, and I'm happy we don't do it anymore. And actually the Rossi text I fundamentally wrote, and then we said, okay, let's put together these two things so we can make a book. But the Grassi text, which is almost unreadable, I think, has been so important for us. Like, it's by far the most important text we ever wrote, and it's a text that is about how we can work together, fundamentally. Then the Rossi thing is another thing. Maybe it's even interesting, but for us, not so important. And if you want to read something about our office, I would advise you to read the ugly, clumsy, badly written text on Grassi more than the others. Then we started to do competition in Belgium. I will not speak a lot about these, that we did not win. Another model design, photographed by Stefano Graziani. This beautiful idea of chopping the facade of this unbelievably ugly church that had to be turned into a cultural center in a neighborhood mainly inhabited by Muslim Belgians. So there were a reason to open up this thing. The Nile research going on. So we spent a lot of time going to Egypt and then presenting this. These are photos, of course, these are by Giovanna Silva, these are by Stefano Graziani, and these are by Bas Brinsen. And we made this study of this supposedly rural area, which is actually denser than the city center of Milan. That is the Nile city, a city of 900 kilometers, and I believe something like 25 million people, probably nowadays even more, in which the proposition is not so. The proposition was to somehow concentrate urbanization on these sort of parallel strips that are perpendicular to this linear city. But more than anything, the research was about showing that this is already a city and that it's lacking some sort of self-awareness. So these are drawings. This was done again with Atelier Campetil and with Liszt, French office.
And this project was finanziato, no?
This project was founded by a Dutch
institution,
Stimulero. Yeah. So this became also cover of Domus and several shows. This is the editorial board of San Rocco. And this is, that year, that was the Biennale curated by David Chipperfield. We took part with all the people somehow involved in San Rocco's project, with this table with different projects that were either our projects or projects by someone in the past that we redrew or somehow reinterpreted. Together with that, we did, invited by Sam Jacob, we did this operation called Book of Copies, which was actually asking some 100 offices around the world. You did one? No? Oh, I could have. You sure? Yeah. Sure. Come on. Why we didn't have? So we asked these different architects. We proposed a topic, which was not really a type because this is not a typological collection. So it was things like pyramid or church or cemetery, but also blue buildings, and everyone had to collect a set of photocopies in A4, black and white, with written what was the thing to copy, and then we produced these 5 volumes of copies that more or less look like this. We translated the book that we showed before into English, and then several times we had we sort of, like a couple of times we opened an office in Hong Kong. So this is the logo, Baukuh Asia. And we, of course, closed it again because there was no reason to open it. But this happened a couple of times. So there were a couple of Chinese adventures that I'm skipping. This is another very big model for a competition for the public space around the Humboldt Forum, so the reconstruction of the Hohenzollern Castle in Berlin for a museum of African art. I mean, if it sounds crazy, it's because it's crazy. This is Palazzo Reale in Milan, where we laid out this model with this the Altes Museum, the cathedral, and the castle, and this project to reorganize this public space with the basic assumption that if you rebuild the Baroque castle, then you should also build a Baroque garden. And you should do it in such a way that makes it more evident how surreal was your idea of rebuilding the Hohenzollern Castle to host a museum of African art. The project is, again, a bit paradoxical, but at the same time extremely pragmatic. So these different squares are the result of overlapping of different infrastructure, firemen, access paths, and so forth. So this determines this geography in which we also try to shrink the amount of public space because it's too much to be really used. So you have these squares in the different part, and the rest you simply, in a way, erase by filling it with greenery. So these are, again, photos by Stefano Graziani. This is done together with the Yellow Office, the landscape designer. And this is this very big model. This is a competition done with Berlin office Kuhlmann Betsy for an immense mosque in Pristina. I don't understand why, but of course it wasn't built, not only our proposal, but more in general. We also did much more pragmatic things like restoring this building that was designed by Pino Pizzigoni, who happens to be the grandfather of Vittorio, one of our partners. So this is a very, very little city hall in a village in northern Italy, and we basically repainted it with absolutely nothing. So it is as it should be. This is a competition we won for a school, a gigantic, horrible Catholic school that unfortunately is protected by Monument Office, so has to be maintained, and we designed these elements around this large open space that we are now slowly building. Maybe there's a couple of photos later. A very beautiful proposal for a social housing development in Geneva. I think in this we got to the last round and then we lost. This very big model of that. Yeah. I think it's self-evident that this doesn't need much explanation. This, I think, was kindergarten, and there was this very long residential slab in the middle. Then in 2014, we did this issue of San Rocco about Bramante, and we also did as it was the 500 years? No. Yeah, 500 years anniversary of the death of Bramante. We did the birthday cake, which was terribly expensive. And this thing is based on Sergio's engraving of the dome of St. Peter by Bramante. It was completely uneatable. It was this big. And I think we ate like 3%. This is these are stuff like
when we finished the
House of Memory was finished. It was whatever. An exhibition in Monaco about Fausto Melotti. That's the fancy moment in our history. She is the Princess of Monaco. I was called Caroline. Caroline or Stephanie? I don't know. Maybe Stephanie. And then we did also another exhibition about Super Studio at the PAC, which is building by Gardella. And in a way, we try to do the most anti-Super Studio exhibition design you could do. So we use the Super Studio wall, kind of close the open Gardella thing, and ended up with this weirdly, bit clumsy and cumbersome thing, which was quite good to exhibit this object. This is a project in Varese, a fantastic project to reorganize this square as proper. Like Varese is probably one of the few mid-sized cities in Italy that do not have a proper theater from the 18th century. This is because the city grew in the 19th century because of but it's a very rare case that there's a city of that size, like around 200,000 inhabitants, that was not already a city in 16th century. So Varese doesn't have a fixed city structure. There's a bit of fascist urbanism, but no more than that.
Public buildings are fascist, no?
Yeah, because before there's no. And there's this gigantic
Piazza d'Armi. Era la Piazza d'Armi.
Yeah, that was the Piazza d'Armi, the exercise for the army. And there's a horrible supermarket there. This is a parking lot now, and they asked to restore these military building and to design a new theater here. And we thought we could squeeze the theater on this very narrow triangular site where there's a street here, and so we could complete this square and turn it into a proper Italian square by doing this weird theater that has the problem of, that's the same situation of, I don't know, Rossi Theater in Genoa, the Carlo Felice. You enter in one direction, but then the theater is in the other direction. These, I think we got a third prize or something.
Second prize.
Second prize. This is one of the projects we like the most of our production because it's so, I think it's so simple and so clear what you want to do at the level of the city, and at the same time it's so weird and so tormented what it wants to do at the level of architecture. And I think this is a relationship of architecture to city that we completely endorse.
But Pierre, we can also say about this project that sometimes in the competition, we do the choice that the competition doesn't allow. Yeah. So this building is not in the plots that the municipality thinks. And for this, we doesn't win.
Well, we also went to the second range. And
this happens often in our stories.
Yeah, well, okay. But, and there's this fantastic facade, which is like 90 meters long, something like that, which doesn't really correspond to the theater, because the theater is actually only half of it. And the building is like a building behind the screen, and it's a bit like those, you know, those pathetic lizards from, I don't know, Java or somewhere that have this collar, and they look like a dinosaur, but actually they're just a lizard. And it's a bit like this. And it was completely flat, like completely in marble, but completely flush, because if there's one thing we don't like is plasticity in the subdivision of architecture. So it's completely flat. This is a competition we won for the student city in Tirana. So we continue to work in Tirana, and the student city is a complex of dormitories, and we propose to introduce some faculties and to organize this entire thing around a lawn in the middle with a portico around, a little bit like University of Virginia in a way. And then we worked quite a lot to this thing. And this is one of the things we often do, like these little movies that show the transformation, how you can do things step by step, and at the end they composed a figure, which I think combines our like an idea of form that is strong in a way, because a very clear definition of what is public space and how it's organized, but at the same time it's super pragmatic how to do it, and it's also relatively open to adjustment and so forth. So this is at the Biennale in Paris. This is an apartment in Milan, actually for the graphic designer of San Rocco, which is super simple again. And it's different scales, the attitude are very similar, and this classic 19th century apartment in Milan, in which we just corrected a bit this corridor with these mirrors at 45 degrees. But for the rest, it's just a restoration. So, and then it has this little bit weird effect that you see here with these mirrors. This is a project about making public buildings for Chicago Biennale of 2017. And well, this I will cut it short, but it's a pavilion, and the pavilion is titled the Chapel for the Scenes of Public Life. So an object that could host deliberately public events, but also host a representation of these public events. So on the on the walls of the interior of this pavilion, there are these scenes that are the scenes of a fake meeting, the meeting of the Queen of Sheba, out of the stories of the Queen of Sheba of Piero and Francesca, with Enrico Mattei. Enrico Mattei is an Italian political figure who was the boss of the state-owned oil company. It's probably one of the responsible of the economic growth of Italy in the 50s and 60s. He was a Christian democratic partisan, like a commander in the partisan fight. And of course, he never met the Queen of Sheba, which probably didn't exist. And if she ever existed, it was a completely different era. So these are these scenes in which I don't even remember what we imagined would happen, but this is how we produce these drawings. And this is the pavilion, and you see here the drawings that we. The drawings are first of all photos by Stefano Graziani of this building. That is the that was supposed to be the stage for this thing. So this is the Palazzo della Civiltà del Lavoro. No, Palazzo del Lavoro in Torino by Pierluigi Nervi for Expo Italy 61. And then we first with first with Photoshop, then by sketching, then redrawing it with AutoCAD, then sketching again, then doing something in Photoshop. And finally came to something like this that was then drawn by hand by students of UAC Chicago on the walls of this thing. So this is a bit the space inside. You can see more of a red. This is the theater reappearing in an exhibition a couple of years after, in an exhibition at the Graham Foundation in Chicago. And this pavilion, this is another competition that we won. More or less, all of our bigger commissions, they're always competition. And this is a competition for Carlsberg. Basically, Carlsberg bought this Italian beer brand called Cerveceria Poretti. They transformed the image and decided to have a new entrance building. Then I leave this to Giacomo. But what I want to say is that the building is a relatively small building. It's not even 20 meters in diameter.
No. The diametro.
It's 15.
Sì,
15. And it's immersed in this landscape. It's really tough. Like it's an industrial. This is a cleaning plant for really dirty water. So this is super smelly. So we decided to make a building that could be gentle and small, but at the same time autonomous and could fit into this context.
Sì. Okay. Also in this building, you see the model, and again the model was crucial because in the competition we decided to use these images, no? And after we know that we win the competition, the client say, but you can do some render, please, because we don't understand. And but we didn't the render, and we start working with the model, and we do new paper, because they are not agree with the colors. The important things is the client was convinced about the shape and the idea of the building, and then we work with the client together to arrive to the right images, because images in a company as Carlsberg is very important. So we start working with them, and also the board of Carlsberg and the Danish, because the property is Danish, but the board is also by Italian, because Bier Poretti is an Italian beer, very famous. And we start with the logo, the label, Birrificio Angelo Poretti, Valganna is the place. Decoration is a cone hoop. Is a cone hoop that appears on the whole building. This is the whole building. This is the whole building. This is the boiler. Yes. But now there is a very new boiler inside, because Carlsberg are so technology. And we choose this soap, and we redrawing the oak with the tiles. The tiles, again, as in Casa de Memoria, happens. We work together with the Vogue Italia, is a factory of tiles, and they did the colors, because the yellow is the yellow of the factory of Bier Poretti, and the blue is the logo of the main beer. Of the main beer of Poretti is the blue. So yellow and blue, and the construction of the building was so simple. Concrete core in the middle, and the wood structure around it that closed this building. And the difficult things in this building was to arrange tiles on the core, because the dimension of tiles and again the spacing between the tiles determines the dimension of the core. So we had a layer, we have concrete, we had a layer of insulation, bricks, and these bricks became covered by the tiles. And we arrived to the...
It's always incredibly low tech, but incredibly high effort for the architect, because you have to measure to the last little piece of time.
And the other things in this building happen is the installation. Is almost no installation in this building. So the form, the shape of the chimney is to have natural ventilation. Natural ventilation becomes from the window. You can open the window. Yeah. So, and we have some hole on the core, and the air goes up. So insulation and the materials and everything allow us to do this building is a zero building consumption, and so I think this was.
Yeah, we are also this very sustainable office, although we sell it so bad through our.
But we don't know.
It's simply, you cannot see that it's sustainable, but actually, anyhow. So we finished San Rocco. So we concluded this is the last event with me and Jacob, Alice Gutman, and Thomas. And Kastner. We did then this very important competition for the Farini area in Milan. So this is the monumental cemetery of Milan, and this one here is the Farini area that was a logistic platform for the railway. And around Milan there are several, like at the beginning I think there were 7, but now some are being rebuilt. Several of these logistic platforms that are now being redeveloped, but Farini is by far the biggest. And strangely enough, we were invited, and this is a bit a thing I was discussing with Sebastian and Marcelo before, that we do not really understand our career, because actually we're always asked to do rather important thing in Milan, but for some reason we cannot manage to do smaller, apparently less important things. So somehow we're always into this big thing, and we did this we did together with Atelier Campetil, with Chris Gantenbein, and with On-Site, which is another office from Milan. And the competition was finally won by OMA. And what we proposed for this area was to actually, once again, complete one unified figure that could go together with the other parts in the northern part of the city. This is part of Sempione, the classical and 19th century park, and that is all these other. This is the hippodrome, this is the stadium, blah blah. And this thing could be done because the cemetery, il cimitero monumentale, is actually a park. There are trees. These trees are 100 years old, and anyhow, except very rich or very important people, nobody is buried there anymore. There are other cemeteries. So this, we thought, okay, this is a park, and we can treat it as a park. And if we treat this as a park, this thing here that has basically no form, and inside of which is not really possible to define a form that could operate at a large scale, finally could be reunited with the cemetery and compose something that operates at the scale of the city. And of course, having this big forest would also contribute lowering a bit temperature in a city that is so warm in summer as Milan. And this system could be brought together with a series of metro stops and other connections. And this is how it could look like. And you see that it would have been very difficult to define a form inside of these. And by defining so much the green mass, we were also free to distribute the different bits of this massive expansion with a certain pragmatism and a certain freedom. So the scheme was also very open to adjustments on all other things. The other important thing was that it was requested to have a bridge over the railway, because the basic assumption of the competition is that this area is, in a way, forgotten and has less value because it's on the other side of the railway. While I'm not convinced by this, I think the problem is actually the cemetery that has this gigantic facade here that clearly tells you city is over. This is the end of the city. So the cemetery is the problem, and at the same time, this is the rather bad, eclectic facade of the cemetery. So the cemetery is both the main problem and the main asset. And the railway, in my opinion, in our opinion, was rather less important. The other thing we discovered is that actually here, on top of this building that limits the cemetery, there's actually already a terrace which is in average 6-7 meters in size. So these could become a sort of suspended walkway, like a sort of eye line of Milan, if you connect it with the bridge. And honestly, I think this is something that the city should do, no matter what plan will be realized on the other side. So this is a photo of the scheme, again by Stefano Graziani. This is at the Collegio Helvetico. And these are a bit of the towers that were replaced, but this is not so important. So this is the existing terrace, and this is how it could be used in the future by just adding some railings. It's in a city that is so incredibly flat as Milan, but maybe Buenos Aires is the only other city in the world that is as flat. Going up 6-7 meters is already extremely panoramic. And these are a bit of drawings of that. Together with that, we did this apartment for a very rich Swiss client in a former studio of a painter in Milan, which looks like this, with these tiles that are matching the tiles, and they create this sort of non-super studio kind of volume, which is this tree stack. So actually there's a corridor here. This is accessible from this side. It's a cabinet, and the rooms are on the other side. So you see these, like the pieces that are renovated are just this kitchen and a bit of services on this street, and then this other street with things. And it looks a bit like kind of weird, the Richard Meyer, which I like a lot. And these are handmade tiles coming from Sicily, but doesn't really matter at all. This is another fancy moment. That was a booth for the art gallery outside in Weert at Fritz Höger. Moving to completely different thing at the scientific police in Tirana. A building that we had to copy from the building of the scientific police in Belfast, because apparently the British government decided to pay for the Albanian scientific police. So at a certain moment, I went with the staff of the Ministry of Interior of Albania to Belfast to visit the scientific police, because we had to copy. But at the same time, we couldn't get the plans because it was secret. So we had to copy something that we actually didn't know how to copy. But the only thing was that this building had stairs at the two extremes and then a corridor in the middle. So we thought, okay, if you want stairs on the two sides and corridors in the middle, it's fine for us. And this is a bit the result. These are the renderings done by our Albanian local office, which are so unbelievably aggressive that in a way I like them. Sort of okay renders. This is a just before COVID. This I think is already 2019, I guess. So this was a study on Geneva. We do a lot of urban studies, research, master plans, and in Switzerland they have this format, and this thing is called a mandat d'étude parallèle. That means that a couple of offices do in parallel a work on a scenario. And the scenario, it's strange because it was just before COVID, so the Geneva metropolitan region was considering a gigantic growth for 2050, which is something that I think now they do not expect anymore. And we had this very large group together with Stefano Boeri, Michel De Vigne, many others. And we decided to concentrate on the big international institutions that are located in Geneva, which are the United Nations and the CERN, the underground particle collider. And our interest was for the fact that these two gigantic things are there, and they also employ a lot of people who live there and who, in this way, affect a lot of the city of Geneva, but they are not explicitly affecting the organization of the city. So we started by looking at the CERN and the United Nations. So these are photos of Armin Linke for this thing, and it's always the CERN and the mountain, the Salève. Because at a certain moment we dropped the study of the United Nations because it didn't have a lot of potential. What we thought had a lot of potential was that the CERN, so this is actually the existing 27 kilometer underground collider, which is completely hidden, which consumes more energy than the city of Geneva. It's active only in summer, I think, and it's one of those deals that the French do. So all of the energy comes from France. So it's basically atomic energy from atomic French power plant that I would say provides energy to the collider. And this one, which is 100 kilometers long, is what they are considering doing. So they're planning to build these gigantic tunnel. And of course they're planning, the CERN is an amazing place, there's only nerds, and they never even considered discussing their planning with someone in the city. So what we thought was, okay, given they're digging this tunnel, even if we don't know anything about what they're doing with their experiments, and they should remain like separated, this tunnel could, being a tunnel, like a very basic type of infrastructure, can also be used maybe to distribute energy, not to produce, but to distribute. And if we overlap this circle with the infrastructure grid, we can get certain points where we can imagine the city to grow. So this gigantic circle never appears, which was the critique in the newspapers that we were formalists and wanted to do a demented 100-kilometer circular city in Geneva. Actually not. We were just proposing that this thing, we see the points at which this thing interacts with the surface infrastructure, and this becomes a way to read this landscape. A little bit like the exercise on the Nile, that the form is used to understand what's happening. And one of the very interesting things that happens if you put this circle on the map is that the Salève, the mountain of Geneva, is exactly in the middle. So there's a strange landscape sensibility in placing this circle by these nerds who, of course, didn't consider this thing. And the other thing is that you almost touch Annecy, which is a city in France of Lac Annecy. So you get to have a completely new idea of a possible conurbation. So this Geneva, this Lake Geneva, this Lake Annecy, this Salève. And all of a sudden, if you take seriously this circle, you start to see all of these regions in a different way. And then in order to explain this, we did this very big drawing, which is a 360-degree panorama from the top of the Salève, in which you see Geneva. I don't know if I have it. So this is the half of the future circle. This is the existing underground circle. This is Geneva, the Alps, Annecy, blah, blah, blah. a competition for the City Hall of Tirana done with Johnson Martley and Yellow Office, which we proposed this very big pergola that could produce shadow, so that the place could be complementary to the very beautiful square realized by 51 and 4E, but which is completely without trees and very, very warm in summer. It's not almost impossible to use. So a very simple box for the offices and these this underground auditorium. Well, I think it's enough. We can move on. Probably it's too much. This is a super small public building, which is 60 square meter. No, 90 square meter. In a place where there was an earthquake in central Italy, something we did for charity, basically. So, which was built independently from us. So they managed to ruin it immediately by this horrible thing, but which is a little polite and little building, kind of. Yeah, that we sort of like. That somehow, no. So in the meantime, I wrote this thing that, I think Javier asked me to speak a bit about books. So this is this book on Vermante with photos by Bas Prinsen that you see, and this is a bit how it has been written. This has been written by myself without the partners. And I think it's very good for me and for them. So we separated that field of operations. And this is a bit how I work. I don't know if it's so interesting. So I'm really not a good writer, but I think I'm a good editor. So I'm quite good at erasing what I've written. And normally I print, I never correct it directly on a computer. And normally I add this thing forever with me. So I always use the left side to sketch. So this is, for instance, is the Farini landscape thing. And family life also. So this is, for instance, the police, and these, for instance, are the color codes of the model for.
Or lista della spesa.
Yeah, or lista della spesa. So it's also like the two things, writing and working in the office, are really completely in parallel. And this is a bit the structure of the book, and this is how it looks like. This has been designed by Francesco Pellicciali, this as well. So this is a drawing that I think you saw already in a slightly different version. And this is the cover of the Italian edition that will appear soon. Somehow somebody bought the right for a Korean edition. And I'm trying to do a German edition. I would be very happy to do a Spanish edition if someone is it. Then we did this exhibition design for a show on photos of Stefano Graziani. And this is actually probably our most important project so far. That is a library we're doing in Milan. And this is a competition we did with On-Site and with Yellow Office once again. So these are a bit of drawings. It's a very simple building. There are two naves, one next to the other. There's this underground book storage that distributes the faith in the two naves. The nave to the north, this one is the so-called forum, so it's the more innovative part, open part of the library. The other part is the so-called departments, which looks a bit more like traditional library. And in this building, to the back, there's an auditorium. So the building has this sort of V in the middle, and there's a sort of canyon where the distribution takes place. So these are sketches. And this is these are drawings by Andrea Zanderigo. And this is what we, in the end, care about in the office. So what we care about this building, really, what is really important for us is that this northern, more open part of the building has a grid that is larger than the one of the other. And we also care a lot about the fact that all the diagonals are precisely getting to the corners of this grid. And in order to have a proportion in between these and these that makes sense, so these are reasonable windows, these are also reasonable windows, and that corresponds to the overall volume and so forth, we spend a lot of time thinking about it. And this is how it looks like. Yeah, I think maybe the building is done in collaboration with Atmos Lab, that I guess probably you know because Florencia teaches you. So, and the building is
in collaboration and fighting with Florencia.
No, come on, lovely collaboration. So the building is actually conditioned and climatized only 2/3, and 1/3, which is this very large entry hall, this distribution, so-called promenade area, and this glass house at the top. They are not conditioned. And this is 1/3 of the building, which is a lot in terms of consumption and so forth. And this, in a building that is completely made of glass, in a city that is crazily warm, more and more warm in summer, requires a lot of engineering. But again, a lot of engineering to then come to a solution that is rather simple, because the building is simply enveloped in a metal mesh, and all this technology, all these studies goes into deciding the size and the depth of this metal mesh, and that's it. And then there's nothing that moves, no crazy technology, just metal mesh. But in order to define the dimension and the thickness, it's quite complicated.
But okay, this is a very, very big building, and we work with on-site. And I think the 20 years of working with 5 partners was for me very important to cover to find the solution between 2 studios. Because I'm the coordinator of this project, I'm the project manager, and the design of this building we didn't do a model, and we start after the competition with on-site, and this is very hard work. Two offices work on this, and for example, Pierre said about the grid, and we are obsessed about the grid. And I remember the day when we find the proportion. The proportion is 5:11. 5:11. Sorry, there, come back. Is 511 is the same proportion of this rectangle and this rectangle. And they meet, 3 of these meet with 2 of these. The big one, 2 big one, 3 of the little one. So, and the slope of the building, okay, is the proportion of the triangle. So the slope is determined from the rectangle. So this proportion is the building for all. Frame, and then the panel are grid panel. Second thing is about the client. The client say one thing, 30,000 square meters, so huge building, and 2.5 million books. That's crazy. And so we are, of course, we are on the way of this. This is the construction site start in November 2023, and we are okay. We after the competition we work on the grid and on the proportion of the grid, and it is a building with 2 skin, we call pelle, no? 2 skin. See, this is the Campioni, the
mock-up.
No, it's not proper mock-up. We wait for the mock-up in September now. Is only pieces of the facade. The grid, this is the little model. 2 meters and 38 and 70 of width. This is I think in English is a catwalk. Catwalk? The passerelle are in between of the building, and then the stuff.
They are necessary to clean the thing.
Yes, because the grid doesn't allow to clean that. And then we have the glasses and the structure of the window, we say. So now we are waiting for the mock-up. We decide something and we work on this. Okay, and the second thing is we decide to not have 1/3 of this building conditioned, no? And this is a very, very big goal if you arrive to this. We fight with Atmos. When I say fight, because Atmos push a lot on this way, but it's not so easy. It's a lot of problem. It's a very complicated building. It's very complicated because books and the environment inside is important. So we work. I explain these things. Is the blue are conditioned, the yellow are not. This building is long, 75 meters, so it's very, very long.
Glass part.
Sorry. And this is represent the 2 situations in winter and in summer. This is winter, this is summer. And you look the 31. Maybe in mid-July and mid-August, the last floor is difficult to live, but we think that we have to pay something to have 1/3 of building not conditioned, because it's a huge goal. Okay? And then this is the system. This system is a work after a competition. This competition is with European money, PNRR, and is
which means it has to be finished by 2026, which is also the only thing that the municipality cares about. This is a bit of a strange situation. Like one thing we discovered by doing public building is that in public buildings you have a little bit more freedom because the client doesn't own the thing, so
doesn't have very precise ideas about that. Also, a thing like this, there's a couple of buildings like this built every 10 years in Europe, and so there's no rule book, and also the amount of space that is not conditioned, for instance. It was our proposal, and if at a certain moment we would listen not to Florencia, but to our installation engineers, who is much more worried about the Italian legislation and certain set of values that you need to have, and say, you know, if we condition even that, nobody would care. And so it's a bit of a strange condition in which you play also the client in absence. The same way as it was even more extreme in the case of House of Memory. House of Memory was built by the developer. So our client was the developer. Instead of giving 3.6 million euros in tax money to the city, they would give a bill, which would also mean that they would try to spend less than 3.6 and put in their pocket whatever could be put in the pocket. And there, the client was fundamentally absent because the developer didn't care about it. Absolutely, he just wanted to finish it the moment they agreed to complete it with the city, and not to spend more, actually as much less as possible for the thing. So we were playing also with the client, so the thinking a bit for the common interest and thinking this is a public building. This is a bit of a strange situation. I don't know how it is in Argentina, but neoliberalism meant, in Italy at least, that the public sector completely unlearned the capacity to give order, to take responsibility, to say, I want this instead of that. To the point that, for instance, the competition for Scalofarini, which was for 400,000 square meter of volume or more, 600,000, something like crazy, was done by the developer, and not by the developer who owned the area, but the developer who owned like 2% of the area, who already developed, because the area is owned by the railway. And the railway just want to sell the land. So they don't want to make a speculation on building, they want to make a speculation on land, which is actually better if you take the position of someone who does speculation. You just sell it and there's no preoccupation. So the competition was paid, we were paid by the real estate developer. And the real estate developer paid us 20,000 euros, which is really little. And you make 20,000 euros times 5 groups, it's 100,000, maybe a little bit of money for the jury. With 200,000-300,000, he decided the future of Milan for this gigantic piece of land. And there's no single idiot in the city hall who was capable of saying, you know, 300,000 euros is nothing compared to our yearly budget, and we need to maintain control of this sort of decision. And this is not really being super leftist and thinking the city, the community should maintain control, blah, blah, blah. It's just common sense. It's so you're giving up so much power for so little money that it's completely demanding. And we are working in this situation also with people who are extremely efficient. Like the people who we're working with for House of Memory are extremely efficient, but they presuppose they have no power. in a way. They presuppose they cannot have wishes, they cannot have inputs, they just want to finish on that. And in this situation, you also have some freedoms that probably you should not have, but you're also missing a potential, how to say, a collaborator, right, or potential input, because it's a very strange way of doing public buildings, actually. I don't know if it's the same here in Argentina, but yeah, it's my opinion. We're almost at the end, by the way.
But okay, this is the synthesis. This is the synthesis of the building. So we got we work, and the grid are 10 by 10 on the south side, on the west side, on the north. This is north, this is south. And so we have 10 by 10 because 10 by 10 is so close that when the sun in the summer is up, the sun doesn't enter on the building. So we are grid 10 by 10, 10 by 10. This is the north, and Atmos convinced us to have also grid, but grid 1770. And because the sun in the sunset and in the Al-Alba,
Down.
yeah, in summer arrive very, very low and enter in the building. So they convinced them. We had here a cover with curtain, a system of curtain. So because we have to protect this place, from the sun in the summer, and the sun must enter in the winter. So this complicated system is to have a temperature about 20 in the promenade. We call this promenade, and the windows open in the automatics in the night, and curtain during the day cover this facade that is the south facade. These pieces of building are conditioned because we have books inside, so we cannot do this.
Okay, I think it's it. No. Well, do you want to stop it here? I think it's fair. So, then I accepted the position teaching at TU Vienna, and in the chair that before me was the chair of Anders Palfi. I don't know if you know Anders, but before was the chair of Rob Krier, and I suspect you know. So I was to become the new Rob Krier, and as Rob Krier, I think it was his invention, I had to give the introduction course to all the new year students of TU, so 400 students. And I did this introduction in 8 lectures that are organized according to topics, kind of big alternatives. And so the lectures are just like that. So it's always, not always, but most of the time a diptych. So there's a topic, I don't know, wall and column, wall and roof, and the two correspond to the 2 spheres. And so this is the beginning of one lecture. So you see this is wall and roof. And after doing that for 2 years, and in order to do that, I thought, okay, this is a relatively important course, so I should prepare a bit better this time. So in the summer of, 2020, I prepared lecture. So I made these sketches and notes, or some quotes and some. So basically, this is redrawn from the image and redrawn from in front of my laptop. Like it's not that I search onto. And so I added some of the quotes or the things I wanted to do. And at the end, I had this bunch of papers, and I thought, okay, maybe we can do a little silly book with this. And this has been published by Mac, and it's this yellow book. Last year, we did a couple of things, but maybe the most important was losing this competition at the very last stage of competition in 4 stages, if I don't remember, which at the last there were just 3 officers.
Almost 1 year of work.
More than 1 year.
More than 1 year.
And so this is a competition for Prague train station, which is this building here. Then in the 70s in Prague, they built this urban highway just in front of this old Habsburg building. And so they built, in order to connect, there was this part, and in order to connect the station, which is here, to the city, they built a fantastic underground terminal designed by a team led by Alena Shrankova, who was an amazingly good Czech, actually Slovak architect she died a couple of years ago. And the buildings looked like this, looks like Caesar Pelli in kind of Soviet version of Caesar Pelli of the 70s. It's so beautiful. And it's probably the most important public building designed by a woman in continental Europe. And of course, this thing is crazily complicated app connecting metros, trains, and so forth. And of course, the connection in between Prague and on one side Vienna and the other side Berlin will probably be completed soon, so the station will change a lot. The problem with the station is that when you are here at the top of Wenceslaw Square, you absolutely don't see where is the station. And so you end up into the highway, a thing I personally experienced the first time I went to Prague, and I had to go back to Vienna by train, and I certainly was literally lost somewhere here, and it's not really nice. So what we did in all these different stages was to try to not to touch at all the Shrankova terminal, but to add 2 pieces that could be recognizable as station from Wenceslaw Square. This is the National Museum at the top of Wenceslaw Square. So this is one of the versions. This is how these, of course, there's all sorts of problems with different levels, infrastructure underground, exhalation pipes of the metro, anything. I will not go into this. This was done again with Yellow Office and with a Czech office called Ray Architecti. And this is a bit the organization. This is also done together with Atmos. So these 2 new elements are sort of kind of funnels who bring in air in summer. And this is again how the ramps of the parking lot on top of the building could be demolished and substituted in time. And this is a bit how the thing could look like. But in the end, Henning Larsen won the competition by deciding to smash entirely the Shrankova terminal. And this is a tower we designed for Škoda in Albania a couple of months ago. That's it. This is finally everything. Okay. So a couple of years ago, we were asked to do this exercise by Alejandro Zerpolo of, you did it as well, of placing yourself in this weird map that he produced. And, well, this is a bit of the rest, blah, blah, blah. And this is was our position with respect to the question, which I think summarized it. Yeah. Okay, ciao.
Let's see. You talk. No, well, of course, if you have questions, I mean, it's probably been too long already, but if you have questions, and also in Spanish, I think we might understand.
Thank you so much for the lecture. Yeah. Questions or comments? This one from the students. I got it.
Hi. Quick question. Maybe looking for a specific answer, but I'll see what happens. Is there a reason why you started focusing about climate and conditioning and that topic in general in these last years? Would you consider that is a relevant topic in the world, or there was something about this new relation with clients or the program or anything in particular?
Well, I think it's an important program, yeah, and it became more and more relevant in the discipline, and we simply reacted to that. And I believe it is absolutely important, but this doesn't mean that it automatically produces a certain aesthetic, like the aesthetic of a sustainable building is, first of all, still to be discovered, but I think also multiple. Like, I guess many of the very best buildings of the past were sustainable in their terms, and in the sense that they were buildings that made sense in terms of how air circulate, but also how people can use it, how they can be used for a very long time, also in unexpected ways. So yes, we are committed to sustainable architecture, but that's not a stylistic option.
Yeah. No, the simple answer is low, in a certain moment in Italy and Europe, low ha costretto
Well, the low force to
do it. Sì, the law impose us to the sustainability of the building. The second thing is, for me, sustainability is like a structure. There is, and you have to manage. I understand this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, está bien con el micrófono.
Hi, I got a question. I think I love your conclusion, and because that is a quite a defining graph, and I think that was the goal for Cerveceria Poretti. But I have a question about your view about your architecture, because you started as students, and you described in your process your architecture with quite a lot of negative adjectives. You say sometimes what you done was bizarre or stupid or clumsy. How do you think that your architecture changed and why?
Well, I don't know. I don't really think I can. This is not really a question for us. I think it's probably a question for someone else. I think we're rather consistent with what we did at the beginning. We're also, not all of us, but I personally also, Giacomo, we're easily bored person. So we actually like to change a bit. At the same time, we are also very stiff person, so we don't like to change. These two tendencies are conflicting. Well, I don't know. I think one of the good things of being an office with many partners is that we need to be relatively open. And I think a certain degree of eclecticism, understood in a very specific way, was part of the idea of the office from the beginning. And then we've been lucky to work in very, very different contexts. Like we worked for, we worked for Hauser and Wirth, the most crazily luxurious art gallery in the world, and we worked for this very, very provincial civic center in central Italy, and we worked in Albania, we are working in Belgium, in Switzerland. I think this is really nice. It's also a problem because I think we compared to others, we are an office with relatively unclear identity. Like we're not clear brand, and this is certainly a problem in commercial terms because you don't really know what you're buying. This we realize it's a problem, but we would not even know how to solve it, and it stays there. I don't know. We were certainly more sensitive to environmental issues because of a lot of reasons. I don't know. I think we're not doing some of the things I showed are things that I even almost forgot before doing this talk at the Triennale. Like some of these projects, like the project with the volts, these crazy models, that we don't do anymore. We don't do anymore because we don't have that energy anymore. We also don't have that spare time anymore. So thank God we have professional commitments. We have things to do. We also have a family in the majority of cases, and you don't do any more stupid models, and you don't carry them in the mountains. And I think it was also fun to do it, provided at a certain moment you stop, because if you do it for your entire life, it's a bit demented. So yeah, that's sort of the answer.
I have two questions. One is very short. Where did you end it there? On the graph.
I don't know. I have this. You should. I don't know. Well, I don't know. I think I don't remember those categories. Does anyone know that? Like techno-critical, technocratical. I don't know. But I can ask. Where did you end?
I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, no. We were. Stop this.
I don't.
Metti una
Cosa?
quella.
No, the other question is connected with this. I've been there. I wanted to take note about things because I was really intrigued about your your position through lecture, and I know that you are quite difficult to be like that, as you said, or branded, or just display your work as a single word, phrase or words, etc. Which is something I like about the practice nowadays. And so I was making a lot of notes, and I find there is a constant in your work that is about provocations. Not in the bad sense. I mean, provocations like an engine to produce changes, or to produce novelty, or just to move things forward. I noticed like drawings that were radically displaced from the place of comfort or its main origin, which is like a kind of subjective provocations to our discipline. And then like violented or crushed archetypes, like when you just put things together, like that's a kind of provocation. Then you have that beer pavilion that you have, like, it's super royal and it's symmetric, but the door is like what? A little bit displaced to the right.
I can say something about that.
Okay.
Sorry.
Falli finire.
Sì, sorry, scusami.
So different provocations. Then you say just like in the middle of the lecture, we are also very sustainable office. Like, okay.
We have no choice.
Yeah, I know that. Then you also work with the copy paste within a discipline that each time requires more that demands more novelty or creativeness. You know, creativity nowadays, like the subject about being a designer or something like that, and you just say, okay, Asbjørn made this project, we can copy him and just make this correction, etc. Then you work on the less super studio project for a super studio exhibition with super studios with design tools. That is like another type of provocation. So you're jumping from techniques, materials, geometry, things, but always how you make provocations is something that is quite intriguing. And I want you to ask you, and I have a list, but I can continue. But I think that there is something interesting about how you talk to the discipline through those provocations, and I wanted to, maybe if you can move a little bit forward those concepts about that.
No, it's only one thing about Poretti, because it's funny, no?
No, it's funny. Yeah, I know.
It's very funny, no? Yeah. Divide the circle.
Okay.
Divide the circle, and I answer also, you say a lot of things, but divide the circle. Divide the circle in an office with 5 people. It's not so easy.
Yeah.
And it's 30, 11, 12. But the solution of the problem was that we need to enter here on the. Okay, this is in the axis, the main axis, and then is there. So this allow us to arrive to the solution of the divide of the circle. But
yeah, but tell them how many pieces is divided this damn circle.
Is
19.
90.
Like, I mean, I was completely against this 19 thing. Like, 19 is a prime number. I mean,
no, it's a solution because
it's a solution. You see, it's a solution. 19 is the solution.
This is open and
yeah, let me talk about another note I have, because you are being extremely obsessed with precision in a discipline, a culture that is becoming more superfluous and like a fast track discipline. So why do you find this is like another provocation you do? Because
I don't think they are provocation. I think we are trying to be dialectic. like there's a certain situation, there's a certain context, and we try to make it react a little bit, and that's a bit the space of innovation that we do. Because for the rest, we are relatively we're very precise, but we are not so inventive. But in the little twist is in reading the context. I think, for instance, the work about the Geneva big scale strategy, I think, reveals a lot of that. Like the figure is already there, and if you can find something that makes things react to one another, you can have a new perspective, a new story. This is a bit what we are trying to do. I think we're very contextual in a strange way, although our projects are always, I think, rather readable. But also this is very contextual. This is to be placed next to these very big, ugly basins full of, not literally shit, but debris of beer production. It's also smelly there. I think that's what interests us. It's mainly reading places. And that's also why we are so interested in going wherever to try a new thing. Of course, we are very related to Milan at this point. There's no doubt. For the rest of Italy, it's not that we really have a lot of work there. It's very complicated for us to work there. So we're relatively open to try a lot of different contexts, geographical, cultural, and so forth. So I think maybe the most creative thing we do is in a way critical, like in reading these different situations.
Aspetta, posso dire? Sì. I want to only one thing that I wrote some notes when we are in an airplane, no? So long trip for RCT. And I wrote this fix that is, we are, as an answer also for the guy, we are in works together, we learn to be adaptable and very strictness, very rigid together, because the adaptable is to understand the situation, the context, blah, 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 blah. And the rigor for me, geometry, proportion, these things are the base of the work. We always work on this. We start from this, but then we are adaptive. We adapt. We are not so strictness, no so rigor. We adapt the things. We change the division of the circle. Sorry.
So my question picks up the diversity of your work that we've already been talking about in the questions, but then I was wondering more about your methodology, maybe in the office. Like there are some glimpses, maybe in the lecture, there is certain model making that repeats itself in the diverse projects, but like seeing you working with diverse scales, diverse materials, diverse topics, and I was wondering if there's like a certain maybe pattern or method or how you work, like when you have to face these different topics, and like imagining the start of a process is, especially being 5-6 people in the office, is there?
No. The short answer is no. Nowadays we very rarely are all together in the same room. So we do not really start projects by being all together discussing. This doesn't happen anymore. It's just unfeasible. We did that at the very beginning, and we spent a lot of time in useless discussion that I'm relatively happy we don't do anymore. But they were useful, like this text, which is about orthography, and it's so clumsy, but it's about that. It's about how to work together. And working together is like one of the things we always do, because the risk, if you are many, is that the discussion starts to become personal and like, it's me and this shape and you and this other shape. So we always try to, for instance, I think that I don't understand how it could work is couples, like offices done by two people. I don't understand how they can agree because it's too subjective. It's like a marriage. And thank God we are not in a marriage. We are many, we need to convince each other, so it's very explicit. And we always discuss about something else, like, I don't know, these, wait, go back to...
Scusi.
Like,
Where?
No. Like for instance, like we are discussing a lot about what to do here, because that's the place where the two facades coincide with this gigantic piece of structure there, and in a way you would need light there, but actually it's absolutely opaque because otherwise the thing collapse. And also you have to carry away the water, so it's full of complication. And this is a thing we've been talking over and over about this thing. And we always try to say, oh, you know, there we can do like in this other building, done by whomever. And same thing, for instance, for these pillars. I don't know if there's a plan, but at a certain moment, these building. Well, in the competition, we actually had a more simple grid that was more corresponding, and now we managed against the office who is collaborating with us, but in alliance with the engineers, we managed to have two different structures, so that the structure of these does not correspond to the structure of that. But most importantly, that the structure here is double, so that it's not only one pillar below the, let's say, tip of the V, but there's two. And this is a little bit unnecessary, although then the engineers say, no, it's necessary because so then we can split the structure and actually it's also good. But creates this friction, this point of non-correspondence. And we add an entire catalog of colonnades that do not correspond, that are exactly not what a 19th century engineer would do there. And this is actually how we discuss about this thing. And also another thing that we managed was to move this escalator from here, where it could have some space. No, we managed to put it in this most complicated place. We were very happy when we realized it was possible, because it would free a lot of space here, because otherwise here would be too much in the middle. But it also generates this strange tension of elements. So this is a bit how this thing evolves. And it evolves always with examples of other buildings that help a lot, making the discussion not personal, like not, okay, I have this fantastic intuition, but you have this other fantastic intuition, and whose intuition is more fantastic, that easily ends into who is, in its sense, more fantastic, which is really a discussion we don't want to have.
great and long conversation. Thank you so much, Giacomo.
Thank you.